Thinking number 2.
Like a man. So we're all about pilots these days. We're all about new stuff. And this
rolling them out, just rolling them out.
Rolling. But the interesting thing about this one is that actually it is sort of an oldie but goldie that people tried to tell me, oh, why don't you do it anymore? You should do it again. So we're going back to the roots because this format, which will be the record club, actually comes from even before Gin in Teacups. It came from my first channel, which before being Gingerly Ginger was actually Londoner Groupie.
I've been wondering where that email came from.
Yes, it comes from there. And basically what I used to do then, I got this idea from my class at the time. I was doing my master's here in London, and we were all very, very much into music because we were doing a master in music business management.
Yeah.
So one of my colleagues, Elena, came up with the idea of, oh, we should do something like a book club where we bring albums or songs to have the other listen to, tell the story behind, so we actually learn about new music and stuff. And another friend of mine from my class, actually, Electra, brought a song by, again, we first played them and then we would tell the story. So plays this song, very sort of rough rock as well. And then she explains in the story that actually that was her dad's band. So I expect you to do that sometime soon, to be honest.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm not sure how we can tell people to listen to that, seeing as it doesn't exist. And I don't exactly have copyrights to it, but...
That's again, I think Electra was the same thing, but again, maybe that was easier because you were just in a room listening to the stuff.
Yeah, not recording it.
Maybe that.
Because of course, both these albums are available. Oh, not available, but both these albums will be linked to so that you can listen to them if you haven't heard them before and know exactly what we're talking about. So
basically, yeah, we came up with this, and it was again a great idea to, especially because there were so many of us. We're like 30 in our class. And yeah, and very, very eclectic music styles, of course. So it was a very good excuse to actually try and get into new things. And we have a good potential for that.
Yeah.
Because we can appreciate the same stuff, but we also come from very different backgrounds, music-wise, as in most wise things. So it would be interesting to subject each other to what we like and think the other wouldn't naturally like or wouldn't assume that they would like, but they might actually like.
Or that they should appreciate on a different level.
True.
See past what it sounds like and get into the real art of the music.
The album I'm bringing you today is Plans by Dead Cup for Cutie, and yours is?
Hypnotize by System of a Down.
Okay.
Which, interestingly, both came out the same year.
Yeah, true.
Which we didn't plan to do that.
We didn't plan.
And they both came from kind of very specific points in our lives.
True. So what I will start telling is that, no, I knew System of a Down by name. I sort of knew that they were into that hard rock kind of sound.
It's new metal.
Okay, see, I am that ignorant about that style. And yeah, I need something melodic usually to go on my ears because that burst of energy I can take just in very specific moments.
I mean, that's one of the things which I thought that's why I picked System of a Down. I mean, it probably would have been a better idea if because it's part 2 of a double album. And I think that the albums together tell much more of a story, and there's much more of a melodic balance between the two of them. Like the other album's a bit more chuggy, whereas this is very kind of hardcore punk. I'm going to play as fast as I possibly can. Which I think is most encompassed in the opening track to this album.
Oh my god, yes, that really...
Yeah, it's called Attack, and it sounds like machine gun fire, and it's basically about carpet bombing villages in war-torn countries in the Middle East.
Where are they from?
They are from Armenia. Well, they're born in America, but they're Armenian heritage, all of them.
Okay.
Which is why they are very political, because Armenia has a fairly troubled history in that sense, in that about 100 years ago there was a genocide, the Armenian genocide.
Okay.
That has not been, I think so many hundreds of thousands of them slaughtered by Turkey. And no country, or at least definitely not the UN anyway, is regarding that as a genocide. And so Turkey's just kind of getting away with it.
Yeah, I was like, I haven't studied it as such.
I only know about it because of them. Because they are so active about it. They're trying to bring attention and raise awareness. So yeah, they're all very, very anti-war. But also especially kind of anti-political war.
Yeah.
And they used to be quite heavy into talking about how... it's like one of the classic Black Sabbath lines of politicians don't go to war, they just send the poor. And there's a song on the first album, BYOB, Bring Your Own Bombs, that was kind of very heavily focused on that. This one's much more about, just carpet bombing people as opposed to, we're not even sending our soldiers to fight now, we just blow them up and don't even touch them.
To be fair, again, I maybe had the questionable idea to listen to it the first time in the evening, just before going to bed.
Yeah, I thought it would be a better idea if we listened to it on the way here, so it was very fresh.
Yeah, well, I did that then in the end, because I listened to that yesterday night, and then I was like, I am not able to take this energy in now. Like, it just sounds like something very extremely strong and extremely loud. But if you listen to it at 11 in the evening, once you're ready to go to bed, it will actually it's like having coffee before going to bed. Yeah. So it will leave you agitated, but you can't quite tell the difference between the flavors.
You're really angry about the Armenian genocide. You just didn't know that's what it was about.
Yeah, basically. So this morning, when I needed the burst of energy under the shower to just wake up for the day, that actually worked better. And actually the kind of sort of raw energy and style that they have there, in a very different way, but reminded me, gave me the feeling that I had when I was like around 16 and had my equivalent at that age was very different band, which were the Cranberries at the time. But
very different, yes.
Yes. I remember though that that kind of raw energy reminded me of the kind of energy that I would gain from the way that their lyrics would speak to me, in that sense that they would sound very big without necessarily having the substance for that, but you're at that age where any kind of energy is that kind of raw, so it doesn't necessarily need to be polished to any level. It just needs to be out. At
that age, your emotions are brand new, so yeah, they are very raw. They haven't been refined. Yeah. You're feeling everything very intensely. So yeah, this kind of music does tend to speak to people, and then you kind of, well, some people refine their tastes as they grow older, others don't.
Which is an interesting point. Would you listen to, had you never known them, would you listen to System of a Down now? Because I know that I wouldn't necessarily, I would appreciate the sound, but I'm not sure I would listen to Cranberries today.
That's quite an indictment. I would absolutely listen to the Cranberries today and then. I wouldn't, if I hadn't known of them before, I absolutely would. I don't now because I listened to them far too much when I was a teenager. So, and I listened to them. It's more like I heard them. I never really listened to them. And as an adult, then actually listening to what they're saying, they talk about nonsense quite a lot. And I think this album is a very specific example of that because it's towards the end of the band's career. After this album, they went on a hiatus, which never really ended because they got back together but decided not to record any new albums. And you can kind of tell that there's some creative differences going on because there's the guitarist on one hand who's mental, and he usually adds a lot of the fun to the song. So he puts in the weird melodies, and he sings at the top of his voice, like high pitched and almost breaking at the time. Whereas Sid, the main singer, he could be an opera singer. I mean, he's got the lungs of a blue whale. He can just hold a note forever, and he hits every note perfectly. He's absolutely incredible.
I wondered how much.
Yeah, but he's very, very serious, especially with the political thing. So they always kind of balance each other out. In this album, though, you can see them start to take their own directions. So there's like very guitarist-heavy songs, there's very singer-heavy songs. And the album's almost disjointed in that sense. So you got a song like Attack, very focused and driven. And you can tell that the guitarist is just kind of having fun with it and going mental. Whereas the singer's actually quite angry in this song. And then you got something like Vicinity of Obscenity, which is gibberish. The entire song is gibberish. It's just banana, 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 terracotta, terracotta pie. The entire song. And also She's Like Heroin, which is talking about getting girly boy hookers and getting ass, and has nothing to do with the message of the band whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
So when they split off, you end up with these two very, very different styles then of their solo groups, Scars on Broadway and Just Serge Tankian. And then you kind of feel like, oh, but actually maybe they did need each other because they balanced each other out quite well.
I see your point there.
I mean, what about some of the softer songs like Loneliest Day or Soldier Side?
I really like, I think Soldier Side is the one that really impressed me because at some point it sounds like it has a string arrangement, which is something that I didn't expect at that point to hear in that album. It's still juxtaposed with then the very loud and strong guitars, but it has these quiet moments as well. Those were easier to talk to me because that's more. I do understand the apex appendix better than just the loudness itself, because it was just the loudness itself. I do understand it if I have a rush of energy or if I need a rush of energy. However, when it keeps on being on that high, after a while I becomes numb to it. Whilst when it goes up and down like that, it just keeps me always attentive in a way.
Which is something I remember this album a lot differently than when we were listening to it last night, because in my head, and it makes sense because back then, you're right, I was constantly like kind of at this level.
Yeah.
So there are much deeper peaks and troughs in my memory of how these songs go. So a song like You Fig or Dreaming, compared to say Attack or BYOB, they sound relatively soft to me, and there are much more melodic sides to it. But actually listening to it last night, I was like, no, this is all just quite intense. I mean, yeah, it was 1 in the morning for me as well. So
yeah, I suppose that's what, but again, I don't think I would have gone there at all, actually knowing them by myself. But it would definitely be something, especially if I need a rush of energy, literally like caffeine, that I would go again to. And that's actually interesting to know because, again, I have this unfortunate issue, which I don't think I'm ever going to lose now, that unless I'm really paying attention, as in reading through something, English, especially sung, will always sound as background music to me. It's more, voice at that point is more of an instrument to me than an actual meaning of words. But honestly, it is kind of the same in other languages as well, in French and in Italian as well. So I've always more been in that direction. So yeah, until you told me what it was about, not that I couldn't listen to the lyrics, but I should have had the lyrics to read at the same time, because otherwise the actual meaning of it wouldn't get to me, which is a shame because, again, quite strong and potent images.
I mean, moving on to Death Cab for Cutie and the album Plans. I mean, you kind of mentioned earlier on that there came at a very kind of precise moment in your life, which I kind of had that feeling while I was listening to it, because it's kind of quite a melancholic album. I mean, the entire album kind of, each song runs into the next one, and it's one of those things you listen to all at once.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if the entire album is just one song, but it's broken up into 14 different stories. Which,
ironically, is very much the feeling that I had when I listened to the first time to Hypnotize.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's actually true of both albums, because there's Soldier Side is the first song on the first album, but it's Soldier Side intro, and then that one is Soldier Side outro for the 2 albums together.
Okay.
And
nice.
There's actually recurring melodic notes that go throughout the entire album that kind of link everything back together, which apparently was a theme at that year.
I was going to say, it was like there was a sort of rock opera feeling.
Yeah. But yeah, so like what does that album mean to you then? What's the story behind it?
You know what? I have actually subjected you to that, trying to be as unbiased as possible. Because rather than just put you to listen to, I don't know, No Need to Argue, or, I don't know, Bad Blood, stuff like that, I just put you into something that I myself knew for the music first, before even knowing the band or having any story related to it. And it's actually something that, one of the few things that I actually stick to myself, because I had just moved to London at the time. So basically my brain was bursting and burning 24/7. The amount of synapses lost there will never come back. Just because of the excitement to be here, really. And it must have still been the end of 2007, so I had been here less than 3 months, which from Milan, it is quite the jump still. And so I was basically never going home. So I was finishing work at the office in the city center at the time, and I would just try and keep and stay out and look at stuff and do things. And one thing that ironically I like to do was go to bookstores.
Of course.
Ironically, because I don't read that much. I'm mildly dyslexic, so I listen to a lot of stuff, read less. But yeah, I spent hours, like I would get out of the office at 6 and be in Borders across the road until 9 in the evening. And at some point, they're playing this song, and then another, and then another, and I can tell by the style that clearly it is the same band, if not possibly the same album. Never heard anything like that before. And by song 5, I think, so quite endured, I went to the info point and I was like, I know this is not what you expect because I'm not asking about the book, but could you please tell me what's playing in the background? And the girl told me, oh, it's Plans by the Cup for Cutie. Never even remotely heard of them. Next day, I think that I'm being so clever, and I sent an email to one of my former colleagues from MTV in Italy, who used to be, and still to this day, sometimes is my main music pusher. She finds stuff that I don't know how she finds. She should be an A&R, actually, not me. And I'm like, oh, you have to listen to this band, they're amazing. She's like, oh, didn't I tell you about them? I'm so sorry, I'm sure you would have liked them. And I was like, okay. I think Plans is actually their 4th or 5th album. Yeah,
I mean, it's an interesting thing that, like the genres that were out at that time. So I basically dismissed Death Cab for Cutie because it was one of the bands that emo kids would go on about all the time and constantly wearing their t-shirts. And then I kind of worked it out after a while. So in the 80s, you had the New Romantic movement. So we got the Smiths, the Cure.
Yeah.
Then in the late 90s came the New Romantic movement, which was Death Cab for Cutie and Dashboard Confessional.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Then the emo music evolved from the New Romantic. So it was kind of like the people who listened to that, then emo music came out and they're like, oh my god, this is like the better version of that.
That's interesting. I never thought of Death Cab for Cutie like that. I suppose because that's the genre that I met when I came here. Everything to me was coming from Britpop, which to me was derivative, or indie rock actually was derivative of that. So
yeah, but Britpop can also apply to British pop music.
No, so. Absolutely true. And so I was like, I know that it's not quite like that, but it's soft enough, but it's deep enough at the same time. So
well, it very much, yeah, and especially the style of the album is quite similar to Oasis, though with a very different sound.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of albums, if not bands at all, that have a very specific sound throughout either the entire album or the entire career, which might sound like, oh, they do not try, they do not experiment enough. But on the other side, it's something that I always like, because if you feel in that kind of mood, you know that you can go to them and they will deliver. They will give you what you know to expect from them. So that I'm always happy about.
Which is always it's always a fun moment when a band evolves in style and they come out with a new album and no one listens to the new album that likes that style of music because they didn't like the old style, so they just won't bother. Everyone who did listen to them doesn't like them anymore. And then they have a choice of either giving up at that point or going back to the Roots album.
Yeah.
Which is always a disaster. Metallica, probably the worst example of that.
Funnily enough, I think
Weezer did the same thing.
Weezer are alive throughout their whole career, so I'm biased, I suppose. Which honestly, it's unusual because Rivers Cuomo himself, I think I've understood, it's a very unpleasant person.
Well, I've always
very anal.
Put it this way, I've always wanted to go up to Weezer and ask them how they feel about the fact that their songs are always the easiest songs on Guitar Hero.
I really like that. I really like that.
Power chord.
Actually, the bassist has a solo project called The Relationship, which I'm always looking up on Facebook, seeing if they come to the UK. Because I don't know if you remember the video from Buddy Holly, but the bassist is really, really cute.
Mm-hmm.
So, always a good thing. But now what I was thinking of. Oh, I think the interesting, I think that Cup for Cutie had a sort of evolution in that sense. I don't know if
Definitely.
generally, but the album after this was Narrow Stairs and actually came out in 2008, I want to say. So I discovered Plans next year, after the year after that, Narrow Stairs come out. And it's a much more uplifted sound. The singing style and the guitar style is still the same, so you can still...
Is it still acoustic?
No, again, there are more instruments, there is drums and stuff like that, because it's it has more rhythm, it has more life to it.
So
and
yeah, when they actually went full emo then.
Yeah, but I think, if I'm not wrong, the singer and pianist who is actually the producer as well, wrote this together, or Chris Wall, actually the pianist, wrote it mainly, and then the singer just did touches up. And you can tell that something bad had just happened in your life.
Yeah.
Either a relationship had ended or someone had died or something like that, because it's a rather dark album. And then Narrow Stairs come, and there's this song that it's called No Sunshine, which you would think by the title we're in the same mood. No, it's all no sunshine, no sunshine. So it's no, it's much more uplifted. I don't know if the fact that Ben Giver at the time had just married Zooey Chanel that actually helped the mood there, but it's then they had that kind of uplifting mode for a while after that. But yeah, that one was all quite dark, all about. It's all about, in the best case scenario, it's about death, which is something that always fascinates me.
I heard the word love crop up a lot in this album.
Yes, which is what makes me think that along with death is actually probably the reason why makes me feel like, yeah, something ended there. However, you know what? The other day I was just thinking about this. I think do you know how they say that the opposite of love is not hate, the opposite of love is death? So it's Eros and Thanatos. In philosophy, in sociology, and stuff like that. It's not love and hate, it's love and death. And I always wondered, when I had to study this stuff, it's a dichotomy that doesn't make any sense to me.
Not me neither.
However, the other day when we were together somewhere, it hit me and I was like, you're the first person that makes me realize why death is the opposite of love. Because when you are in a situation as ecstatic as love, the only thing that can interrupt it is death. So the worst thing that can happen is not for something to happen and the other person to hate you or you to hate this person, because in some ways that doesn't affect what's been up until that moment. That is something so final and so changing without any chance.
I mean, I always think of opposites as two sides of the same coin, in which case love and hate are, because it's someone you really, really care about.
Yeah, I tended to do the same. Again, up until a few days ago, and then he hit me and I was like, oh, it's as if looking at the two things from different sides. And then at some point you get a bird's view and you see both at the same time. And it's like, oh, in that sense, yeah, love and hate in that sense are sort of, yeah, one beside the other. But the opposite one that sort of puts an end to it and cancels everything.
It's a bit like saying the opposite to playing chess is being hit by a truck, but...
Well, if you're hit by a truck while you're playing chess, the game is over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, kind of.
I mean, yeah, I could definitely tell while listening to it that this album kind of spoke to a very specific moment in your life, because it reminded me a lot of the kind of music I was listening to a few years ago, which was when I basically got into trip hop, which are all very, very melancholic, but if I may say, slightly better produced songs.
Yes, true.
Because this album was very kind of, it's basically just acoustic guitar singing,
yes,
drums and bass.
I think they literally say that they recorded it in a room in the middle of nowhere. They didn't even try.
So yeah, I mean, a few years ago, maybe I would have listened to it, but I was, I guess I had quite a poncy standard of music at that point. Which is something I've always had, because like when I was a teenager, I was one of those kids who was like, oh, pop music's just made on a computer. And then here I am 5 years later, listening to music made on a computer going, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. It's, of course, you couldn't do that with real instruments. You need computers.
It's not what you use, it's how you use it.
Exactly. But yeah, it's definitely, and I can kind of associate each band I was listening to different things I was feeling at the time and different moments in my life. So I knew that this one would kind of, like, when I listened to it, I wanted to walk up to you and say, what happened to you in this year?
Actually, no, that's the crazy thing. It was a big change nonetheless, so maybe I'm not surprised that on that deeper level, that melancholy got to me. But it was actually a very, again, energetic and crazy moment of my life, and especially watching at it now in hindsight, clearly one of the best moments of my life, because it brought me to all of this. So who am I to Ben, Chris, very thankful for all the help you gave me through that time. Just occurred to me, Joe, that after that Cup for Cutie phase, not even a few months later, I dropped into Travis. So no, I was in a melancholic mood. Whatever I was saying, I was in that kind of mood.
Must have been very homesick, bless you.
Clearly part of my brain was, but if you were to ask me, never in a million years. I forced myself to go back to home for Christmas that year.
That's true.
So it's...
But then I'm guessing that year beat the year when you just got left at someone's house that you didn't know, when all the public transport was closed down.
Again, I have the romantic memory of that, thinking, oh, even in such a bad moment, strangers were still, the kindness of strangers, that instead of leaving you having Christmas all alone on your own, will, even if they don't know you, will invite you and stay over. However, it's, going back, had I known, actually, I think alone time is underrated. Yeah. Alone time is an amazing thing, and it needs to be cherished and appreciated. And I would have listened to music and stuff. And also, I think it's very nice, but it's also very rare to actually connect to people. At least it is in my case. I really envy those people that can go up and chit-chat to everybody and find different things to connect with everybody. I am completely rubbish at that. I clearly don't have the talent for that. It's something that you either have or don't have. And unfortunately, you know me, I'm very peculiar on very many things. So if I can connect you on something like that, amazing, we're going to be best friends forever. But if not, it's the best that I can do is make you feel as comfortable as possible, which I don't know how to do, though. I'm going to try and listen as much as I can, but yeah. Although amazing sausages that year.
Okay, so I mean, to round things up, would you listen to System of a Down? Did this album intrigue you enough to go back and listen to some of the other albums?
I would listen to System of a Down a day that I am really in need of energy, but awarely so.
Well, our flat is pretty bad right now, so we could go home and blast this on and just like blitz through it and tidy everything in like 10 minutes.
Again, in a way, in a moment though that I'm aware that I want and need that burst of energy. If it's actually forced out of me, that will make me grind a bit. But because again, it has an abrasiveness that either you're embracing it, or it's something you're fighting with your tooth and nails until it's over. But I understand. Again, I do see it as a shot of caffeine. So it's something that, in that sense, it's very sort of easy to pigeonhole. And forgive me if they're doing that. I always dislike the concept of genre because of that. But in the sense of the energy that it can drive to you, and I mean, I was under the shower when I was listening to it again this morning, and I was like, ooh, and the songs, this would give me the feeling to get prepared and So in that sense, when I'm in need of some...
I have to put an age warning on this video now. Sexual sound content.
It wasn't meant to be sexual. But yeah, in the sense of the burst of energy, I like to know that that's an option that I can go to now.
If you had to listen to one song off the album for the rest of your life?
Oh, that's a tough one. Like, I would have an aneurysm, the rest of my life wouldn't be that long. That being said...
So would you want... Yeah, I mean, you can choose to shorten it.
I would go to Soldiers.
Soldier Side.
Soldier Side, yeah. It's, again, the easiest one of my years. So I think I would go to that. What would be yours for that kind of Cutie?
Well, whether or not I would listen to them, then go back into the other albums... No, because I don't want to kill myself. Like, yeah, again, I've cheered up now, so I don't need to listen to sad music. That's why I'm getting very much back into like Jane's Addiction these days. Cause
I'm getting back into Placebo.
There we go. Placebo, a bit melancholic, but sure. So no, it's too depressing for me to listen to, and I just don't care about their problems.
Okay.
I don't feel sorry for them enough. I don't empathize with them. It's like, oh, I'm sorry your girlfriend broke up with you. Mine's actually pretty great, so
I know that
I have nothing to relate to them.
You know what? Again, it's something that occurred to me recently as well. Like, there is a level of empathy for relationship issues and all of that that I have sort of lost. Like, and whenever I hear about problems, my first go-to is like, well, if you have that problem, then clearly you're not in the right relationship, because I'm in a relationship that doesn't have the problem. If it had that problem, I wouldn't be in this relationship. But again, it took me more than 3 decades to get to this level of not being abused. So
a Teardrop by Massive Attack is one I can still empathize with. Careful, we get content ID'd. For a song I would listen to for the rest of my life, if I had to, again, would kill myself relatively quickly, but Follow You Into the Dark.
Yeah, that's...
Because, I mean, that's just like that is the one song of Death Cab for Cutie that I apparently have heard my entire life, because as soon as it came on, I was like, oh, yeah, I know this.
Again, best case scenario, we die together. That's
True.
the vision that they have.
Yeah, that's a good combination. Or we get carpet bombed.
Yeah. Or again, I think in another lyrics of their songs is love is watching someone die. So who's gonna watch you die?
I mean, it is the best case scenario.
Yeah,
The best case scenario is dying before your loved one dies.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck them, you're dead, you don't care anymore.
Yeah, we started off pretty intensely in the angst/sad way, so we'll try to probably try a different direction next time.
Well, I mean, I suppose we can pick albums now, so that I mean, we'll try not to listen to them until the next time we record.
Okay.
But it gives a chance for the lovely viewers at home to listen to those albums before the next episode comes out as well, and also do feel free to suggest albums for us to listen to that, just judging by books by their cover, you think that maybe we haven't listened to. So for you, I'm going to make you listen to Biffy Clyro Infinity Land EP.
Which is one of the earlier stuff.
Yep.
I have been into...
So in fact, I think it's the first album.
Wow, okay, beggar's time. I love Biffy Clyro, but it is true that I have known Biffy Clyro just since...
They sold out.
Well, yeah, since 2009 onwards, because they came to Warner. I was working at Warner at the time, and...
I always wondered, actually, who they got the record deal with, because they're independent, and then suddenly they're on Radio 1.
Yeah, Warner. That's how I got to them. And I think the album at the time was only Revolutions.
Yeah.
So already quite far. But I remember that I've gone back looking at their album covers, because it was done by Storm Thorgerson, which actually died a couple of years ago, but did the covers for Pink Floyd, covers for all of their albums until a couple of years ago, and was just such a weird visionary. So because I was always into visual and music videos as well, it got me back from that to actually at least see the covers of the first album. So okay.
Whose decision at Warner was it to release Mountains as a single one album before it came out.
It wasn't Warner's decision. It was still Beggars. So Beggars,
okay.
it's one of those weird moments when
right, so they wrote
a
the
band
song,
is
right.
when a band is going through changes of labels. So technically, both labels sort of have a claim on part of their work. So they do whatever.
So my friend's dad absolutely adored Mountains. It's like his favorite song ever. So the year that the album came out, after that, it's Christmas time when that album came out.
Yeah.
Got him that album. He's like, Mountains isn't on this one. Why? Why isn't Mountains on this one?
Yeah, because Beggars needed, I think, the last one, and Mountains was a new one. So Mountains went then on All Evolutions.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, I miss Biffy. I really hope to go to either Reading or Leeds. What can I give you that it's the intensity of Biffy and possibly the same level of appreciation that it will gain from me? Because I'm pretty positive about that. Oh, Simon.
I'm being a little bit nice to you this time.
Yeah.
But we've been having this Biffy Clyro argument our entire relationship.
True. That's very true.
And this is like the one instance I can make you pay attention to it.
Okay. Actually, let me check on my play. I have all the playlist of the time of my time here. Really? Oh, no, okay. You know what? Yes. But I don't want you to listen to this one.
Band names right there.
I want you to listen to All at Once by the Airborne Toxic Event.
Okay. I haven't listened to that. I don't think I've ever listened to the Airborne Toxic Event.
You said the same thing when I put them on the first time, and you said you've never listened to this before, and I was like, no, you have. But I'll be honest.
Okay, so something I haven't paid attention to that this time I'm going to.
Spoiler: it is one of those bands that has a very specific style themselves. However, sometimes they go mental.
Cool. Sounds good to me.
And All at Once has one of my favorite songs ever after Calliope, which is All I Ever Wanted.
Okay.
Actually, when they played Virginian Tickets, it was one of those situations where I was like, you're not getting out of this room, literally, this room, until you're playing All I Ever Wanted. And they were like, oh, but our PR told us that we needed to play this. And yeah, can play all of that as well, but. So, okay, we have a deal, and we'll see you here next Monday to see what we think about Biffy Clyro.
And Airborne Toxic Event. Of course, don't forget to leave your songs for your personal life list in the comment section below. Because
every Wednesday in the Ghoul, I will also link the playlist of the week, and any song that is suggested to me, I will listen, so I will put into the weekly playlist. And as well as that, when we get enough of them, we're going to make a viewer special life list, so we'll get in touch with you guys, find out your stories on why that's the most important song to you, and we'll air your dirty underwear all over the internet. Which again, can be worse. So please like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you next week for more gin in your teacups. With teacups for everyone. The Juniper family.